Imagine being your father's favorite child, blessed with dreams of future greatness, only to have your world turned upside down by the very people who should love you most, your own brothers. This is the story of Joseph, a tale of betrayal that would ultimately reveal a divine plan far greater than anyone could have imagined. Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob, but he held a special place in his father's heart, so much so that Jacob gave him a magnificent coat of many colors, a symbol of his favor that only fueled his brother's growing resentment. You see, Joseph had these dreams that suggested his family would one day bow down to him, and he wasn't shy about sharing them. One fateful day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers, who were tending the flocks far from home. As Joseph approached their camp, his brothers saw him from afar, that colorful coat making him unmistakable against the desert landscape. "Here comes that dreamer," they sneered, their words dripping with contempt. Years of jealousy and bitterness had finally reached a boiling point. The scene that unfolded next was brutal. The moment Joseph reached them, they pounced like predators. They stripped him of his precious coat, that beautiful symbol of their father's love, and threw him into an empty pit. Can you imagine the terror Joseph felt? The betrayal, the confusion, the voices of his brothers above him, casually sitting down to eat while he remained trapped below, must have been devastating. But they weren't finished. When a caravan of Ishmaelite traders passed by, an opportunity presented itself. Rather than leave Joseph to die, they pulled him out of the pit and sold him their own flesh and blood for 20 pieces of silver. The price of a slave, the worth they placed on their brother's life. Back home, they dipped Joseph's beloved coat in goat's blood and presented it to their father. Jacob's grief was overwhelming. He tore his clothes and mourned for days, refusing to be comforted, believing his precious son had been torn apart by wild animals. The brothers watched their father's anguish, carrying the weight of their terrible secret. But here's where the story takes an extraordinary turn. What appeared to be a tragedy was actually the first step in God's master plan. Joseph's journey to Egypt, though born of betrayal, would eventually save not only his family but entire nations from famine. Sometimes, what looks like our lowest point is actually God setting the stage for something remarkable. You see, God doesn't waste our pain. Even in moments of deepest betrayal, when everything seems lost, He's working behind the scenes. Joseph couldn't see it from the bottom of that pit, and his father couldn't see it through his tears. But God was orchestrating events for a purpose far greater than anyone could have imagined. The story of Joseph reminds us that our darkest moments don't define our destiny. Sometimes, being thrown into a pit is just the beginning of an incredible journey upward. When life strips us of our colorful coat, when those we trust betray us, remember, God's plan is still unfolding. And like Joseph, our story isn't over yet.